Struggling single mom brings son on blind date. You won't believe the CEO's incredible response. Sarah's heart raced as she stood in front of her modest bathroom mirror, her hands trembling slightly. Tonight was the night she would face the unknown, her first blind date, courtesy of Linda, her coworker at the nursing home. The thought of mingling with a successful CEO made her stomach churn. What would a man like Tom want with a frazzled single mother juggling 2 jobs? Would he see her as just another notch in his belt, a fleeting novelty? The weight of her life pressed upon her as she recalled the years of hustle, the exhaustion that had long since become second nature. The average American dream felt utterly out of reach. She adjusted her sweater, desperate to mask the stains from the many meals shared with 10-year-old Max after long work shifts. Her mind spun. Would Tom view her as just another failure in a society that measured worth by monetary success? She could almost hear the whispers of judgment from the corners of her brain, poring over the memos of her self-doubt. It felt insurmountable, the fear of making a fool of herself, of Max's innocent expectations colliding with classy ambience. Worry tugged at her heartstrings. Just yesterday, Max had been beaming with excitement about his new science project on black holes, his dreams spilling out in chaotic bursts of energy. She had promised herself she would make tonight special for him, even if it was for a date that felt more like an obligation than a choice. Her maternal instinct pulled her toward embracing the unpredictable. What kind of example would she set if she didn't leap into the unknown? Yet with her internal battle raging, the idea of Max unsettling their uncertain environment gnawed at her. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they arrived at the restaurant, it struck her as surreal, the flashing lights and polished floors that screamed wealth and success. A stark contrast to the scrappy little diner where they usually grabbed dinner. The tension settled in her gut, and she worried it would become a backdrop for her inadequacy. Tom emerged, all tailored suits and confident stride. She took a deep breath, feeling the pressure building, the urge to pull away, to escape this world he represented. Tom engaged Max with an enthusiasm that surprised Sarah, asking about his favorite science projects and hypotheses. But that warmth evaporated when his smile slipped, and a careless comment about priorities compared to career goals slipped into their conversation. Sarah's pulse quickened. Did he really think having a child meant putting dreams on hold? As the debate intensified, she felt cornered, her beliefs about family and financial stability opposing his. It was devastating to face that leap from curiosity and connection to walls suddenly built around their perspectives. She glanced at Max, who sat wide-eyed, absorbing the turmoil between 2 adults who should have offered him comfort. In that moment, she realized the stakes extended beyond the dinner table. Perhaps an uncharted path to understanding was worth exploring. Or perhaps it was doomed to collapse under the weight of their different worlds that had shaped their identities. With uncertainty hanging heavy in the air, the cracks in her mask were beginning to show. As she prepared to confront the implications of their escalating conversation, she found herself at a precipice, teetering between lingering hope and an almost unbearable heartbreak. How could 2 people so divergent in their journeys possibly bridge this gap? Sarah's throat tightened as she grappled with the rising tension around the table. Tom's casual dismissal of her role as a mother echoed painfully, turning what once felt like a simple dinner into a battlefield of values. She could sense Max's unease, his bright eyes flickering with confusion at the exchange between 2 adults whose lives seemed to be pulling apart right before him. In that moment, something within her flickered to life, a surge of defiance ignited by the tension. You know, Tom, it's easy to idealize a career when your life is about nothing but ambition, Sarah said, her voice steadier than her heart. But juggling dreams with parenthood isn't about choosing one over the other. That's a false dichotomy. The words tasted foreign, yet empowering. Tom's brows knitted together, surprised by her sudden boldness. I just meant that sometimes sacrifices need to be made to achieve goals, right? His tone was defensive but curious, as if he hadn't yet registered the impact his words had on her. And what are you suggesting? That being a mother means surrendering my aspirations? Because let me tell you, she continued, feeling the weight of every sleepless night behind her words, I'm building the future for both of us while teaching Max resilience, creativity, and that success doesn't only come from lofty titles but from love, grit, and hard work. To her astonishment, Tom fell silent, absorbed in his thoughts, the bravado waning. Sarah's heart raced. She hadn't merely reacted, she had spoken her truth, a truth she had buried beneath layers of doubt. It was a revelation that transcended the immediate context, pulsing with the realization that she had every right to stand firm in her beliefs and assert her worth. Max, sensing the shift in the air, ventured, I think it's cool how Mom can work so hard and still help me with projects. His small voice landed like a bomb, easing the tension momentarily and drawing Tom out of his introspection. You really think that? Tom challenged, turning his attention to the boy, perhaps desperately seeking common ground. Yeah. Max exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. She helps me understand science so I can do my best. Plus, she's amazing at fixing things. You should see her when she's teaching me stuff for school. The pride swelling inside Sarah was immeasurable. She could almost taste it. If Max recognized her strength, perhaps she was not as inadequate as Tom had implied. The desire to foster this realization for her son resonated deeply. After all, this date was not merely about her, it was about the kind of example she wished to set for him. Tom seemed to reconsider his stance, his discerning gaze softening as he turned back to Sarah. You're right. I guess I didn't consider how your perspective could balance ambition with responsibility. Perhaps I've been blind to how difficult it is to navigate both. As the conversation began to shift, Sarah felt her resolve growing. Could it be that understanding was indeed possible, even between two seemingly conflicting worlds? She needed clarity around who she was becoming, not just as a mother, but as a woman seeking connection. Every person has their own journey, and while ambition shapes us, it doesn't have to dictate our relationship with others, Sarah stated firmly, feeling the word solidifying her emerging identity. And I refuse to let my worth be determined only by what I achieve in my career. As laughter returned tentatively to their table, Sarah sensed that this moment was a pivotal point, a crossroad between the nagging fears of never being enough and the burgeoning realization of her own strength, but the narrative wasn't over yet. Sarah's heart still raced with implications beyond the restaurant's confines. She had steered her own destiny by confronting Tom's misconceptions. The question lingered, what would this newfound assertiveness mean for her next steps? As they rose to leave, a vague sense of hope mingled with uncertainty, but she knew it was time to prepare for the fallout of this encounter. Could she maintain this newfound courage in the face of whatever came after? What lay ahead would require even more than conviction. It would demand resilience, adaptability, and trust in her own capabilities. The night had started as a potential disaster. Now, it held the promise of transformation, and as they stepped into the cool night air, she felt the first stirrings of a question that would shape her future. Could embracing who I truly am lead to something extraordinary? The cool night air wrapped around Sarah as they stepped out of the restaurant, creating a sharp contrast to the warmth and tension inside. She breathed deeply, each inhalation almost a confirmation, a promise to herself. No more hiding, no more downplaying her strengths. Emerging from the shadow of doubt felt exhilarating, yet a tremor of anxiety crept in as she contemplated the delicate balance required in her dual roles. Max chatted animatedly about school projects on the way home, his enthusiasm radiating through the car. But Sarah's mind drifted back to the confrontation with Tom. She had stood up for herself, but what did that truly mean for her life moving forward? The intertwining paths of motherhood and ambition sparked a small fire of ambition within her, a fire that threatened to explode beyond the confines of their home life. Arriving home, Sarah flicked on the lights and watched Max bound inside, laughing as he kicked off his shoes. He was planning ahead, mapping out his next science project, each idea flaring into being with a fervor Sarah longed to emulate. Where was her next big project? Her heart sank at the thought. It had been so long since she envisioned something beyond everyday duties. As she tucked Max in later that night, she watched him snuggle into the covers, his small hands clutching the science book she had given him, her way of passing along the values of curiosity and learning. A glimmer of realization unfolded within her. If she encouraged Max to dream and grow fearlessly, shouldn't she hold herself to the same standard? That reflection quickly morphed into determination. She had always excelled in her field, it was time for her to lean into it. Reigniting her career wasn't merely about ambition, it was about setting a precedent for Max, showing him that cultivating passions was not optional but necessary for fulfillment. But as the weight of potential hovered over her, doubts began to tug at the edges of her resolve. Could she manage both the intricacies of career aspirations and motherhood simultaneously? The road ahead promised challenges, deadlines, meetings, and perhaps unyielding critics. Yet another thought crept in: what if she embraced these challenges instead of shying away from them? What if they became her fuel, the very essence that reshaped her narrative? Filled with a newfound resolve, Sarah pulled out her laptop and opened her professional portfolio. She began to curate her experiences, her strengths, her ambitions. Each click and scroll became a small step toward her redefined identity. The hours grew late, but she felt invigorated, a spark reigniting within her that she had long assumed was dormant. However, as she poured her heart into the website, another unsettling thought lodged itself into her psyche. What about her relationship with Tom? Had their conversation merely softened the edges, or was it a deeper shift? Would he understand her evolution or attempt to confine her within the skepticism he had wielded earlier? Those questions swirled in her mind, creating an unshakable tension. This evolution she was embracing had the potential to redefine everything, not just for her career, but for every relationship she held dear. As her eyes lingered on the flashing cursor, she felt an urge to reach out to Tom, to share her new vision. But uncertainty gnawed at her. Would he see what she was building as a threat, or as a collaborative vision? In the stillness of that moment, Sarah understood one thing with cutting clarity: the time had come to face the consequences of her choices, to confront the reality that her transformation might disrupt existing dynamics. She couldn't shy away from this pivotal moment, she had to embrace it, and as she prepared to hit send on her email to Tom, the weight of expectation and hope clashed inside her, a storm brewing on the horizon. The moment of truth was fast approaching, and with it, the need to confront whatever laid ahead. The following morning, a blustery wind swept through the trees outside, rattling the branches like a reminder that change was inevitable. Sarah's resolve felt strong yet fragile as she shuffled into the kitchen, the intoxicating aroma of coffee filling the air. Each sip coaxed her into a hopeful space, yet the looming conversation with Tom weighed heavily on her chest. Nervously, she glanced at her phone, noting the unread emails, each one an opportunity and a potential conversation starter for her renewed professional journey. Max appeared, tugging at her sleeve with a bright smile, ready to conquer the day. She filled his school bag with snacks and reminders for projects, but beneath that routine, she felt an electric hum of ambition, her own future flickering with possibility. As she bent down, resting her hands on her knees to meet his gaze, she realized just how much this moment meant. It wasn't just about preparing him for school, it was tremendously personal, a reflection of her journey and the legacy she wanted to create. Unbeknownst to her, Max mirrored her aspirations. He wasn't merely an observer in this unfolding drama. He admired her strength, and somehow, in his childlike wisdom, he sensed the transformation about to take place. "Mom, you're going to do great things. I just know it," he exclaimed before darting out the door, reverberating with an energy that put a charge through her remaining doubts. With her heart swelling, Sarah set her sights on her laptop, ready to run through the details of her resume. As she strategized her first steps back into a competitive world riddled with uncertainties, her thoughts circled back to her email. With a deep breath, she composed herself and began typing. Her fingers moved deftly, echoing every thoughtful nuance of her burgeoning ambition. She laid it all on the line for Tom, sharing her dreams and the profound importance of their mutual support, but as the words flowed, a new fear crept in. What if her expression of self-determination was not what he had hoped for? What if the side of her he had known was the only one he believed in? The thought sent a shiver down her spine. It was tempting to retreat back into the familiar shadows of doubt, yet she clung to her truth. After hitting send, the email felt like a boulder launched from a cliff, tumbling into the depths of uncertainty. The silence in response could be a chasm or a bridge, she just didn't know yet. Determined to occupy her mind with something productive, she shifted gears, diving into her past projects. Researching industry trends, she found herself rekindling the passions that had once burned brightly before life's chaos extinguished them. It was exhilarating watching her ideas crystallize and formulate pitches, building the architecture of an unseen future. However, lurking beneath that excitement lay another reality she hadn't anticipated, the discontent stirring within her regarding Tom. Could he truly understand that this was not just about her career, but about evolving into a better version of herself for them both? Every moment that passed without a response from him gnawed at her patience, wrapping her thoughts in uncertainty. The day ambled on, a flurry of thoughts and preparations combining to create tension around her heart. A mere text from Tom could shift everything. Were they still partners, or had she crossed an unwritten line? Each ticking second heightened her emotional landscape, culminating in the nagging anticipation for what lay ahead. As twilight fell, head spinning and heart racing, Sarah glanced out the window, the horizon painted in hues of orange and dusky pink. The beauty felt bittersweet. While her path ahead glimmered with potential, she was still encumbered by anxiety regarding Tom's response. Just as she contemplated texting him one more time, her phone buzzed, and an email alert flashed across the screen. Taking a breath, she opened it, heart pounding. The weight of this moment bore down on her. What would she find when she unveiled Tom's perspective of her transformation? The answer would reveal not just the durability of their relationship, but also the fortitude of her choices in a world rife with challenges. Sarah's heart raced as she opened the email, the familiar ping of hope and dread colliding in an electrifying moment. Tom's name glowed on the screen, but the message felt like a labyrinth filled with uncertainty. She read through it quickly, searching for validation or reassurance, but what she found disheartened her. His words were practical, even distant. He recommended they stay focused on their responsibilities, expressing concern about her ambition overshadowing their relationship. Every sentence felt like a tether pulling her back to a past version of themselves that she struggled to move beyond. She blinked back an impending wave of frustration, allowing a sharp inhale to ground her in reality. The professional ambitions she had begun to outline weren't just superficial desires, they were essential to her personal growth. Sarah had known all along that change rattled the foundations of stability, but this response from Tom echoed a fear she had been conscious of. Was he truly ready to see her for who she was evolving into? After a moment, she closed the laptop, a sense of palpable unease settling heavily over her. Standing up, she paced the kitchen, frustration bubbling like a simmering pot. How could he not see that stepping into her own power didn't mean stepping away from him? The sunlight was fading outside, transforming the room into softer shades of dusk, but inside, Sarah felt an urgency ignite within her. She thought about Max and his inspiring words. His confidence in her capacity to achieve great things meant something real. Balancing the burden of her revelation about Tom's reluctance with her aspirations was beginning to feel like a crucial pivot point, not just in her relationship with him but in her own identity. An idea sparked as she paced. She would take her dreams into her own hands, regardless of how Tom chose to respond. She had pushed through chaotic moments before. This was simply a new form of chaos, a new struggle that was inherently hers to navigate. With renewed determination, Sarah made a plan. She opened her research notes again, meticulously outlining the specifics for her next steps, a freelance project that had lingered in her mind and one that could serve as a bridge toward launching her career independently. It was both thrilling and terrifying. As she crafted her introduction email to a new potential client, she also recognized the delicate balance of risk involved. This was a leap in both her professional and personal life, one that might solidify her resolve or extend the existing fracture with Tom even further. But was it not worth a shot? The weight of self-doubt encroached again, but as she held the pieces of her plan, Sarah felt a whisper of strength echoing back to the days when she first dreamt of a path that gleamed with potential. In the late hours of the evening, when winds whispered through the trees outside, she pressed send, feeling the cool rush of release followed by a palpable surge of independence. With a mixture of excitement and anxiety, she leaned back in her chair and acknowledged the reality: either Tom would grow alongside her, or she would learn to flourish on her own. As the moonlight draped over the quiet air, she couldn't help but think about the conversation still waiting to unfold, not just with Tom, but within herself. Each decision illuminated a facet of her being she was beginning to recognize anew as she faced an immense wave of transformation. Just then, her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number appeared on the screen, prompting a swirl of curiosity and trepidation within her. It was time to face yet another possible turning point. Could this be an invitation to something entirely unexpected? Sarah stared at the screen, the unknown number flashing like a beacon of potential. She hesitated, fingers hovering above the screen, a spike of curiosity mingling with anxiety. After a short pause, she tapped the message open, revealing just a simple line: "Can we talk? I have a great opportunity for you." The name attached to it was unfamiliar, but the phrase resonated with an allure that quickened her pulse. Invitations mattered. They represented possibilities, chances to redefine her course. It was another step into the unknown, and while the risk weighed heavily on her, the glimmer of excitement began to overshadow the encroaching clouds of doubt. She set her phone down and sank into the living room chair, her mind racing. Who was this person? What could they want? The professional ambitions she longed for loomed directly ahead, but the bright flicker of this unexpected opportunity beckoned her from the shadows, urging her to take control of her narrative. Could this be the breakthrough she had envisioned, or another momentary distraction brought on by the chaos of change? Despite herself, Sarah felt the flicker of hope rise within her. What if this was a chance to prove her worth not just to Tom but to herself? Pulling out a notepad, she jotted down everything swirling in her mind: potential benefits, anticipated challenges, and questions she wanted to ask. Each bullet point solidified her motivations, propelling her deeper into a realm where she could envision herself succeeding. Time moved on, and before long, she found herself preparing a response. "I'd love to hear more," she typed, steeling herself against any repercussions. In putting herself out there, she was no longer merely reacting, she was initiating, driven by the desire to redefine her identity as both a professional and an individual. As she hit send and leaned back, a tension settled in her shoulders. This was suddenly more than a job opportunity. This was about self-empowerment, the process of reclaiming her narrative. The realization struck her that this moment, her response, marked a point of no return. Whatever happened next, it would serve as a deep plunge into her evolution. From the glimmer of her phone, a reply chimed back almost instantly: "Great. Let us meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the cafe on Main Street." My treat. A rush of adrenaline surged. The cafe was right across from her old office building, the one where she had spent countless hours calculating her worth in the corporate hierarchy. The irony didn't escape her. A sound from the hallway pulled her attention away. It was her son, scampering in with an unsteady gait, his face alight with the innocence of childhood adventures. She watched him, a surge of warmth flooding through her. This was the reason to keep pushing, to carve out her space in the world. By pursuing her ambitions, she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was creating a stable, inspiring environment for him. As she tucked a stray hair behind her ear, the weight of responsibility felt less like a burden and more like a catalyst. Tomorrow would be significant, it would be proof of her commitment to a future she wished to embrace. And while she lingered on her moment of fragile optimism, Sarah couldn't shake off the simmering question surrounding her relationship with Tom. The juxtaposition of professional ascent against personal turbulence was an unfamiliar landscape she had to navigate. The clock ticked away the minutes, and as Sarah paced the room, preparing her thoughts, she glimpsed her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back had begun to look resolute, despite the chaos that swirled in her heart. The boundaries of her ambitions rippled, each pulse an echo of her growing independence. Would Tom recognize this transformation, or resign himself to nostalgia? Only time and their impending conversation would tell. Tomorrow would inevitably push her further down this path of self-exploration, but how far could she truly go without the weight of the past anchoring her fate? With one last glance at her phone, Sarah took a breath, ready for whatever lay ahead. But she couldn't ignore the tightening knot in her stomach, a reminder of the choices waiting to crystallize in unpredictable ways. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon when Sarah awoke, a sense of anticipation flowing through her veins. The inviting promise of a new opportunity awaited her, yet she couldn't help but feel apprehensive. Today was not just about meeting a stranger, it was a chance for her to step into her own narrative, to articulate her ambitions and desires. This moment felt pivotal, a decisive point where she could choose to embrace her journey instead of dancing in the shadows of others' expectations. After a perfunctory shower, Sarah dressed with intention, selecting a crisp blouse and tailored trousers that made her feel empowered. As she slipped on her favorite necklace, a small token from her mother that had always served as a reminder of resilience, she looked in the mirror. The reflection staring back held a mix of determination and vulnerability. With a deep breath, she reminded herself of her purpose, to transform doubt into confidence, and ambiguity into clarity. Before she left, she took a moment to play with her son, Jake, who was obliviously occupied with his toys. It was easy to lose track of the bigger picture when immersed in the daily grind of parenthood, yet these small snippets of joy anchored her resolve. Each laugh reminded Sarah why she was willing to take this risk. The cafe at Main Street was bustling as Sarah arrived, her heart racing with every step. She scanned the room, searching for the figure she had only seen in an email. It didn't take long before a tall man sporting a well-tailored suit approached her. He offered a warm smile that evoked an immediate sense of ease. "Sarah? Nice to finally meet you in person," he said, extending a hand. "Hi, yes. I'm glad to be here," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt inside. As they settled into their seats, the small talk flowed easily, much to Sarah's surprise. She had harbored fears of awkward silences, but he seemed genuinely interested, listening intently as she spoke about her journey and aspirations. There was an air of respect in the way he engaged with her, making her feel like a peer rather than an underling. But as the conversation shifted to more substantive topics, her experiences in the corporate realm, her creative ideas for potential projects, Sarah felt the familiar tension creeping in. Could she truly showcase her skills without deferring to self-doubt? Would she make the case for her own worthiness mingled with her motherhood identity? "I see a lot of potential in what you described," he interjected, leaning forward. "Your insights could definitely add value. But I get the feeling there's more you're holding back." His perception disarmed her. In that moment, she had a choice to make: continue tiptoeing around her fears or claim her space with unapologetic authenticity. With a slow exhale, Sarah recalibrated her thoughts and began laying out her vision, her narration enriched by the lessons she had learned as both a professional and a single mother. "Being a mom has given me a different perspective," she admitted, leaning into the vulnerability. "I see challenges as opportunities, both at home and in work. I'm determined to make an impact, not just for myself, but for my son." Their conversation deepened, revealing her tenacity, skills, and unique experiences. Each statement bolstered her confidence, creating an unmistakable shift in her own self-perception. Yet the undertones of insecurity loomed on the edges of her clarity. Would her ambitions be seen as a liability when it came to her role as a mother? Would this meeting lead to real change or simply serve to highlight her preconceived limitations? As their time drew to a close, he leaned back, contemplating. "This could definitely lead to something bigger, Sarah. I want you to think about how you would fit into our team. You have a lot to bring." Sitting in the cafe that had once echoed with her shadowed past, Sarah felt a surge of renewed self-worth. She had ventured beyond mere survival. She had shared her vision with someone who might resonate with it. "Thank you," she replied, her heart Swelling with a sense of possibility. As she left the cafe, a sense of exhilaration mingled with a whisper of apprehension. The meeting felt like a turning point, yet the path ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty. Accepting this role could mean substantial changes not only for her professional life but her relationship with Tom as well. With Jake's laughter still ringing in her ears, Sarah considered what acceptance of this opportunity might require. Would she have to confront Tom with uncomfortable truths? The time had come to face the realities of her choices, to strip away the layers of her past and approach the future with courage. As she turned the corner, her phone buzzed with a text from Tom, its content a stark reminder of the turbulence standing between them. The moment of reckoning lay just ahead. Would she seize this newfound identity or fall back into previously worn comfort? As Sarah stepped onto the sidewalk, the cool breeze brought clarity, yet it also carried the weight of uncertainty. The intertwining paths of her personal and professional lives loomed before her, each vying for her attention. She touched the necklace at her throat, feeling the cool metal against her skin. It felt like a talisman against the familiar rising tide of doubt. The text from Tom flashed again on her phone, a simple question about dinner plans. Her mind wavered, torn between sharing the highlights of her day and the deeper implications of the conversation she had just experienced. Would he understand the significance of her meeting? Would he even care? Just as she considered her response, Jake tugged at her hand, breaking her reverie. "Mommy, can we go to the park?" he asked, his wide eyes sparkling with innocent eagerness. The juxtaposition of her son's uncomplicated joy against her turbulent thoughts amplified her inner conflict. "Of course, buddy," she replied, pushing aside her mounting anxiety for his sake. Making their way to the park, Sarah mentally strategized the conversation she would eventually need to have with Tom. She knew it wouldn't be easy. He had built a life in opposition to her ambitions, firmly rooted in stability and routine. Just the idea of bringing up her ambition felt like inviting conflict. Arriving at the park, the lush green swayed enticingly, inviting them to shed their burdens. As Jake raced toward the playground, Sarah inhaled deeply, drawing strength from the fresh air. The sun beamed down, igniting a flicker of hope. She found herself contemplating her ambitions while watching him climb and swing, the epitome of freedom and joy. "Mommy, look!" Jake shouted as he bravely ascended to the top of the jungle gym. A rush of pride coursed through her. In that moment, she recognized a clarity that wrapped itself around her. She wanted to foster that same fearless pursuit in her son, but how could she be a role model for Jake when her internal landscape was so fraught? She had to be brave, not only for her career but for him. Whatever her decision about the new opportunity, she knew she wanted Jake to see his mother as someone who pursued her dreams, not someone who allowed fear to dictate her choices. The afternoon drifted by as she watched Jake play, his laughter infectious. Each delighted squeal reinforced her resolve. When Jake finally bounded over, cheeks flushed with excitement, Sarah knelt to meet him at eye level. "Have you had fun?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Best day ever, Mommy." He beamed. As they made their way home, a wave of determination washed over Sarah. She needed to shed the hesitance. It was time to confront Tom, not just for the impending conversation about her career, but to reveal the dreams she had suppressed for too long. Perhaps he would surprise her. Once inside, she positioned herself strategically between the kitchen table laden with their routine dinner of pasta and whether to embark on an honest dialogue. It was critical to step beyond her role as a caretaker and to embrace the mantle of a professional woman willing to negotiate her aspirations. When Tom returned from work, fatigue etched on his face, Sarah steeled herself. He muttered the usual greetings, his eyes glancing over the casual, domestic sanctuary they had built together. She could feel the weight of her own unresolved tension bearing down on her, as intoxicating as uncertainty was alarming. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice steady despite the drumming heart within her chest. Tom paused, a flicker of wariness crossing his features, and she recognized the moment for what it was. She had embarked on a new journey, one that required her to become the author of her own life story, the moment had arrived to delve deep into her own questions, to confront the fears mingled with excitement, and present them directly to him. Would her boldness lead to understanding or chaos? As she prepared to share her thoughts, she felt the ground beneath her shift. A simple question loomed large in her mind: was she ready for this confronting truth to change everything? Would their foundation withstand the turbulence of her ambitions? As this inner conflict wrangled, the actual conversation hung in the air, waiting to unfold. The air thickened with anticipation, each heartbeat echoing in Sarah's ears as she waited for Tom's response. The familiar rhythm of their life felt now like a carefully crafted illusion, ready to shatter with her next words. She studied his face, searching for clues about how he might react. The lines of fatigue framed his eyes, but something more flickered behind them. Curiosity mingled with concern. I've been thinking a lot about my career, she started tentatively, the words tumbling out like marbles down a slope. There's this opportunity for a promotion. The silence stretched, suffused with the weight of unspoken possibilities. Tom's eyebrows knitted together, his expression hardening slightly. Is this about that position you mentioned at your last work meeting? His tone, edged with skepticism, sent a spark of apprehension through her. Yes, Sarah affirmed, her voice warming with conviction. It's not just a promotion. It's a chance to lead projects. To make a real impact. I want that, Tom. I need that. Disappointment flashed across his features, an unspoken dismissal of her ambition. You like your job, but you always said it's not about climbing ladders. Why now? His words churned within her like a storm, invoking feelings of inadequacy. Hadn't they agreed on certain principles that steadied their family? She quelled the rising tide of self-doubt. Yes, I did, but that was before I realized I could blend my dreams with my responsibilities. My time with Jake, with you, none of that will change. I just want to have both. Tom sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair as he processed her revelation. It's not just about you, Sarah. What about Jake? What about us? His questions struck like arrows, directly into her insecurities. The thought of jeopardizing the stability they had built together thundered in her mind. Yet, the weight of suppression, the urge to blend her identity with her ambitions, challenged her to push forward. I believe that pursuing my dreams can teach Jake valuable lessons about hard work and resilience, she countered, steadiness creeping into her tone. Sometimes people need to prioritize, Tom replied, crossing his arms defensively. Is it really worth the uncertainty? What if it doesn't lead anywhere? This perspective snagged at her, igniting a flicker of doubt. But it also stirred a strong resolve within her. What if she didn't seize this opportunity? Would she remain stuck, forever questioning her potential? Staying within the confines of safety will not guarantee happiness. She spoke as much to him as to herself, feeling the burn of truth. Tom, I'm not asking for permission. I just need your support. His eyes narrowed, eyes narrowing into a contemplative glare. The palpable silence thickened, a churning mix of love, anger, and vulnerability suspended in the air. As Sarah's pulse quickened, a deep realization settled in: this conversation was no mere negotiation, it was a challenge to redefine their shared future. Support? He echoed, as if the word tasted foreign. Have you thought about the implications? Sacrifices? For you and for our family? The existential weight of his query loomed ahead, like a fog-shrouded path she longed to navigate. Sarah felt the hairs on her arms rise, igniting something profound beneath her bravado. She had idealized the notion that revealing her ambition would ignite support, but what if it ignited conflict instead? Are you serious about this? Tom asked, the walls of his skepticism silently crumbling. Because there's no going back if you pursue this. His question floated, allowing her to peer into the depths of her own resolve. With the flutters of uncertainty still within, something else pulsed through her, a dawning clarity. The undeniable truth was that a decision must be reached. She steeled herself to engage with her aspirations fully, regardless of the potential fallout. Tom, I am serious. If this conversation terrifies us both, maybe it's a sign we need to talk more, not less. A weighty pause hovered as Tom weighed her words, uncertainty wrapping around both of them. Did she dare to move forward, navigating this fork in the road between conventionality and ambition? He took a breath, the conversation hanging, poised on the brink of revelation. What would be born from this fragile exchange? Sarah realized, she was about to confront a truth that would force both her and Tom to reconsider their roles, their life together, and the future they envisioned. Let us talk about the way forward, she proposed tentatively, as the possibilities sparkled just out of reach, compelling her to take that first step toward a future unknown. What would that journey entail? And would the sacrifices be worth the fruits of her labor? Adjusting the unknowns of their path, she knew deep within that they had both set into motion a change that could redefine everything. As the conversation lingered, a chilling thought crossed Sarah's mind. Perhaps ambition held both the potential for growth and chaos. Could they survive the storm it may unleash? The days that followed were riddled with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Sarah had taken a step into a new realm, one where ambition intertwined with motherhood, and a week had passed since her conversation with Tom. The air felt charged with unanswered questions about their future and about her own evolving identity. She spent countless hours drafting proposals and honing her vision for the freelance project that ignited her passion. This venture had become her escape, a catalyst for the change she desperately craved. As she worked diligently, an unexpected email from her contact at the cafe arrived, a proposal to collaborate on a project that would elevate community awareness about innovative educational techniques. It felt like a sign, an opportunity that echoed her own drive to merge her professional aspirations with her experiences as a mother. Excitement surged through her, amplifying a new narrative within her mind. With renewed vigor, Sarah immersed herself in the details, weaving her ideas into something tangible. The project was not simply about climbing a corporate ladder, it was about paving a path for others. She envisioned creating workshops that would impart valuable skills to parents and children alike, blending her personal journey with her professional capabilities. This inner alignment felt transformative. She was no longer battling against her roles but embracing their coexistence, yet the question of her relationship with Tom lingered in the air like a specter. They hadn't fully unpacked the implications of her aspirations, and Sarah felt the weight of the unsaid pressing down. One evening, after tucking Jake in, she knew it was time to initiate another conversation with Tom. "Hey, can we talk when you're free?" she asked casually, trying to mask her knot of nerves with a smile. "Sure. What's up?" he replied, awareness igniting in his gaze. As they settled into the living room, Sarah felt the urge to articulate her vision. She shared her ideas about the freelance project and how it represented not just a professional step forward, but a commitment to balance her identity as a mother and a professional. She articulated her vision with clarity, each word infused with conviction. It was liberating to share her dreams openly. To her surprise, Tom leaned back, surprisingly open. "You've really thought this through, haven't you?" he remarked, a new tone of curiosity emerging in his voice. "Yes. I believe that I can contribute positively to the community while showing Jake that pursuing his passions is essential," Sarah replied, finding her footing as she spoke. With each passing moment, she sensed Tom's previously guarded demeanor begin to soften. "I know things have been pretty rocky since we had that last conversation, but I can see your passion in this. It's admirable." Pride swelled within her. Vulnerability had transcended walls that felt insurmountable just weeks prior. Tom continued, "I'll admit, I was worried this would take you away. But if it means so much to you, if it means nurturing something in Jake too, then I won't hold you back." It was a moment of recognition that evoked a sense of relief, but it also brought forth uncertainty. "Thank you for saying that," Sarah said, her voice steady. "But it will require both of us to really communicate through this." As they discussed logistics, the time commitment, the balance of their family roles, each word strung together a bridge of understanding. They outlined how they could envision shared responsibilities, reinforcing a partnership that balanced aspirations with daily family life. Weeks turned into months, and as Sarah's project began gaining traction, it became clear that she was walking a path of transformation. Workshop sign-ups skyrocketed, and she felt invigorated by the momentum, imagining the positive ripple effects on local families. She had conquered the fear of judgment and had begun embodying her strengths. Jake beamed with pride as his mother took on this new transition, ultimately demonstrating the principles she had instilled in him. The way he spoke about her efforts at school melted any remaining doubts she harbored internally. "My mom is teaching families to learn together," he said, his words echoing the very essence of what she had set out to achieve. Validation began to pour in, not just from her community but also from Tom, who progressively embraced her achievements. Their conversation started to reflect deep mutual respect, their relationship evolving into one characterized by teamwork rather than opposition. The pinnacle moment came when Sarah was invited to present her initiative at a local educational summit. As she stood before the crowd, adrenaline coursing through her veins, she saw the transformation mirrored in the faces of attendees eager to learn. This was it. She had found her rhythm, a balance of her dual aspirations. Returning home that night, a profound sense of fulfillment settled over her. She had not only pursued her dreams but had reconciled her identity as both a mother and an ambitious professional. Tom's smile as she walked in reinforced the notion that they were navigating this journey together, not separately. Sarah emerged from that experience with solid confidence in herself and a profound appreciation of her capabilities. She was no longer just striving to make ends meet or worried about judgment. She had established her position as a leader, a teacher, and an example of resilience for her son. This was her transformation, a fulfillment rooted in authenticity, one that demanded an unwavering commitment to herself and held immense satisfaction. The journey was far from over, but she had finally crossed the threshold into empowerment, having demonstrated that ambition could coexist beautifully with familial love. Now, dear viewers, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to not miss exclusive emotional stories like Sarah's incredible journey. Leave a like now to help us support the algorithm because it truly makes a difference, and comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's inspiring ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Your support is vital, and only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand its importance. Do it now.